Pluggy it in, we're back. We were just talking about the fact that we need to charge our mouse for the computer. And so I said, plug it in, we're back. I think I'm so funny. We're back. Hi, Mom.
Hi, Daphne.
How goes it?
It goes.
Samesies. I've been working on the one that we're doing today for a while. Mm-hmm. And then I finally put it all together and was like, let's do this.
Let's do this.
Let's do this shit.
So here we are doing it.
And this was actually supposed to be a shorty. Guess what?
It fucking happens, man.
It's a shotty.
It is?
Kind of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I thought you were going to say it's a 3-parter.
It's a 16-part episode.
And every part is 17 hours long.
Yes. How did you know?
Because that's why I said it happens. And then you're like, oh, no, it's only 5 minutes. It's cool.
It's not 5 minutes, but single spaced, it is. Less pages, it's 11. Single spaced.
Okay.
Which means it's 22 double spaced. Fuck, it's actually really long.
Shit.
Okay. It's okay. It's cool. What you got for me today for your disturbances? Because I'm the disturbing factor, as we've already established.
My disturbing fact is about the history of the birth control pill. The pill's history starts with a woman named Margaret Sanger, and she was one of the most outspoken women talking about on behalf of women's reproductive rights.
Okay.
Because birth control was not legal.
Right.
You know, I mean, any kind of contraceptive was not legal. Anything I don't know. There was so much shit that was illegal that
right.
Vibrators and fucking anything that could potentially be used for an abortion. And even if you put it in the mail to somebody.
What year was this?
Well, this is going way far back. So 1916.
Oh, wow.
And in 1916, she opened the first she opened the nation's first birth control clinic, and she was arrested for distributing information about contraception, and she was put on trial by New York for breaking New York laws about doing it. So as time goes by and, women want to take control of their own
bodies and their own decisions.
Yeah, you don't want to have 10 kids because your husband wants to have sex every fucking night,
Right.
Enough is enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. She met a controversial biologist whose name was Gregory Pincus, and he specialized in mammal reproduction. And so she asked him if what he worked on could be used to create a cheap birth control pill so that women would have an option to take birth control, yada, yada, blah, blah, blah. But of course,
so they can make their own decisions.
Right. And it's still not legal at this point because this is we're coming up into the 1950s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's still not legal. And so he developed something, and at first, of course, they use it on rats and they do,
Right.
And then he was trying to do clinical trials on the DL, but he was in Massachusetts. And if he would have gotten caught, he would have been arrested. And so he conducted a small trial, and he hid his research under the guise of it being a, quote, fertility trial. But in order to get the drug approved, he would need a wider clinical trial. But he couldn't do that because it was not legal, and he was already not doing it on the up and up anyway.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. In Puerto Rico, birth control was legal. And at this time in Puerto Rico, poverty was rampant. There was a population boom, and it was home to birth control clinics that had once been funded by the U.S. government under the New Deal, FDR's New Deal.
Yeah.
Under
they
his
became
programs.
a territory of ours.
Yes.
Ours. Of the United States.
Yes. But they needed money. So the New Deal stops funding these programs, stops funding these birth control clinics. So Procter & Gamble heir Clarence Gamble funded and ran many of the birth control clinics himself, but it was because he was a racist piece of shit is why he was doing it.
He didn't want them to be able to reproduce.
Yeah, he said that he believed that Puerto Ricans and others living in poverty should be wiped out to make room for, quote, more fit members of the population. And birth control was part of his vision to make that happen.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
So, yeah, not the purest intentions in the slightest.
Not the purest intentions at all. Gamble is deeply involved in policies in Puerto Rico encouraging women to undergo sterilization as a form of birth control. And ultimately, during this time, 1/3 of Puerto Rican women were sterilized, and it was involuntary. So they didn't sign up to be sterilized.
That's fucked up.
Yeah. So under the policies that were put in place by the government, women were pressured to undergo hysterectomies after they had their second child. Because basically they're telling them...
They're trying to do population control.
Yeah, they're trying to do population control. They're like, you're too poor to afford more than 2 kids, so we're going to call it for you. Not cool. Not cool at all.
Not cool in the slightest.
No. Gregory Pancus and Margaret Sanger, they go to Puerto Rico in 1955, and they go to San Juan and other cities in Puerto Rico, and they go to the poorest areas in those towns.
Right.
And they go basically just knocking door to door, talking to women about, hey, do you want to not get pregnant? Here's this pill. We'll give you this pill for free. You just have to, we just want to know what's going on with you. But the women didn't know that they were part of a trial.
Some major ethical fucking violations happening here.
Which sucks because Sanger was a proponent of birth control, and she was, for women's rights.
Yeah.
But she was also shady, clearly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So women that were taking the birth control pills were not given any safety information about the product, and women experienced some serious side effects like blood clots.
Yeah.
3 women died that were on the trial, but they didn't do autopsies to find out why the women died, so they didn't actually attribute it to the birth control trial. But during the trial, 3 women who were part of the trial.
Part of the trial who were on this birth control.
Yeah. And so women who stepped forward to talk about, to complain about side effects like blood clots, nausea, headaches, all of that, were deemed as unreliable. And they were, either just ignored, or they were told to or they just were told to stop doing it or whatever. If you don't, if it's doing that, then don't do it. But they weren't taking it into account, because all that Pincus guy saw was that it was preventing births, and not looking at the side effects of it, because the estrogen progesterone combination of the birth control pills at that time was way fucking higher than it is now, and way fucking higher than it needed to be. And so, yeah, that's what happened. And again,
Fucked upness. Wow.
So secretive trials were obviously unethical and unsafe. And women who agreed to take the drug did it out of desperation without having all of the information.
Well, that's like the syphilis trials.
Yeah.
The
Tuskegee.
Yeah. So fucked up.
Yeah. But according to Gregory Pancus, the trial was a success.
Fuck.
So, yep. Anyway, there you go. According to him, the pill was nearly 100% effective for preventing pregnancies, but, it caused a lot of other
issues.
Yeah. And there was a second trial that was funded also by that Clarence Gamble.
Yeah.
And the pills were tested on men and women in mental asylums without their consent either, or the consent of their families.
Fuck. I mean, I feel like that'd be okay for prisoners. They still should have consent.
Yeah, they should have consent.
But I feel like that'd be cool for prisoners to, be a part of those trials, have some kind of contribution to society.
Yeah.
But not mental asylum patients, people with mental health problems, and not without consent or family's consent.
Right. So there you go. That's how we got to where we are now.
I have learned about that before in one of my geography classes, actually.
About the Puerto Rican birth control trials?
Yeah, it's so fucked up.
Yeah, it's super fucked up.
It's so very fucked up.
Yeah. Basically, the core of it is racism and poverty.
Yeah.
So that sucks.
Yeah, and both of them.
Yeah, and yeah. So that's it. That's my disturbing fact. Pretty disturbing, I think.
It's extremely disturbing. And it's extremely disturbing how you're a mind reader, because today we're talking about Ira Samuel Einhorn, who's known as the unicorn killer. And he was an American convicted murder and environmental activist. So we're going activist across the board today.
Alrighty then.
Although I guess not in the purest sense in your case.
Apparently not in yours either. He's a fucking serial killer.
All right. So he was convicted of murdering his ex-girlfriend, Holly Maddox. On September 9th of 1977, she disappeared following a trip in which she was going to go collect her belongings from his apartment. Well, they shared this apartment together in Philadelphia and Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
And 18 months later, police found her partially decomposed body in a trunk in his closet. And news headlines were declaring that he was composting his former girlfriend.
Oh, that's disgusting.
Isn't that fucked up?
Yeah, that's disgusting.
Yeah. Yeah, fucked up.
Winnie Ruth Judd, anyone?
Yeah, no shit. Apparently I'm into like trunk killings.
Not killings, just trunk storage of bodies.
Trunk storage of bodies, yeah. Yeah. So his nickname, the Unicorn. Oh, by the way, how'd I do? I kind of did it like you do. Like, you're like, oh, this is what happened. And now let's get into the story.
It's good. You do it however you want to do it. They don't all work out that way, but some of them are better told that way.
Yeah, well, I think this is good because this one's like kind of all over the place.
Yeah, and I hate that. I'm not on your part. I'm just saying.
Well, no, chronologically, it's fine.
No, I'm
it's
just saying.
Like, this is like some shit from out of a movie.
Yeah.
Like, this is what movies were based off of.
That's what I mean. Like, when you're trying to put it together and you're like, fuck, there's so much. And like, yeah. And how do I condense it and not make it into a 7-hour book that I read?
Right, literally. So his nickname, the Unicorn, was derived from his last name, Einhorn, which means one horn in German.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about when this all started. Yeah, like you know German.
No, I know. I just keep picturing a guy with a fucking rainbow unicorn out of his head. And never mind. It's not all rainbowy. It's just like at the base of his forehead that it's rainbowy.
What the fuck?
I don't know.
You're so weird.
I'm going to cut
like that
out.
Snapchat filter?
Yeah.
And you open your mouth and it's like pouring out rainbows.
Yes.
All right. So Ira Samuel Einhorn, he was born May 15th, 1940 in Philadelphia. He was born into a middle-class Jewish family. And I couldn't really find anything about his upbringing. So, yeah.
Okay. So you have to assume it was pretty basic.
Yeah, I guess so. Like unimportant.
Yeah.
Nothing relevant happened to contribute to the story.
Not significant.
Yeah, there we go. Not significant. That was the best. That's the best choice of words. Thank you.
It didn't help in making a murderer.
I don't know.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying, usually when they have a shitty childhood,
it's talked about.
Yeah.
Well, I just couldn't find anything about it.
Then probably he had a great sunshine and roses.
Yeah. And rainbows and
lollipops.
And we'll all be happy.
Yes. With our unicorn.
So he later studied English at the University of Pennsylvania, where he graduated in 1961. And then he went on to pursue a graduate degree in 1963, again from UPenn. And this is when he became a part of some huge ecological groups and became a part of the counterculture movement of the 60s and the 70s.
Okay.
So like counterculture referring to anti-war, anti-establishment. For those who don't know, I know you know what it means, but that's what that means. And he was referred to as Philadelphia's answer to Abby Hoffman and Allen Ginsberg.
Oh, so he had some popularity. He was generating some popularity.
Yeah. And at this time, he would have been protesting the Vietnam War. That's where we are in history at this point.
Okay.
So he served as an instructor of English. I don't know that language.
You are not going to be an instructor of English.
Or a nursing student.
Or that.
At Temple University during the 1964 to 1965 academic year. However, though, they did not renew his contract after they didn't like his contempt for the academic world and how he was always boasting about the straight answers about delights and dangers of cannabis and LSD to students.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Probably in any time period, you don't want your teacher going on about how super that stuff is.
Right. So he was known to be a charismatic speaker, and he became a part of the prominent radical voice for the movements he believed in. So again, like that counterculture thing.
Mm-hmm.
And he even went as far as charming Philly's elite and he kind of like created this cult around him.
Great.
And so
gotta love a cult leader.
he basically had like a wide range of friends and associates from all walks of life. Again, the elite, the people who aren't a part of the elite circles, but they all kind of just like flocked to him. And it said that he fooled many of his peers, friends, and followers who literally were gathering around him while he was in his bathtub taking a bath while he lectured.
What the fuck? I hope it was a bubble bath.
I hope so too.
That's fucking
ain't
weird.
nobody want to see that.
And how big is his bathroom?
I was thinking how big is his bathtub if people are like sitting around him while like just listening.
Well, his bathtub has to be in the middle of a giant bathroom.
Right.
Hopefully filled with bubbles.
Hopefully. We can only hope for
Or
our
he's
own
wearing swim
sake
trunks.
and our own imagination. Highly unlikely. So he was a speaker at the first Earth Day event, which was held in Philadelphia in 1970.
Nice. I love Earth Day.
So there's a photo of him on the stage, which identifies him as the master of ceremonies.
Okay.
And he also claimed that he was a founder of Earth Day.
Was he? Can we back that up?
No. I'm
Okay.
not even fucking close. That's kind of why I just looked at you like that. So, yeah,
JK,
the
LOL.
events organizers have like refuted this claim. It's been far, far disputed. It's not the truth.
Okay.
The EPA credits Gaylord Nelson, who was a Wisconsin senator at the time, as the one who started the holiday by suggesting that all Americans set aside April 22nd to discuss environmental issues. And this is a direct quote from their site. Senator Gaylord Nelson created Earth Day as a way to force the issue of regulatory processes to protect the environment onto the national agenda. 20 million Americans demonstrated in different U.S. cities. And he also had no role in actually organizing the event. In fact, it said that the organizers said that he disrupted meetings. He often alienated people that were involved. The unicorn.
Okay.
Yes, we're back to the unicorn.
Okay.
To Ira. Because of his status within the local environmental community, like I said, he was kind of forming like this cult around him. He was allowed to take the stage at the event, which is where he got the name or that picture that like identifies him as the master of ceremonies. Which that when he was like allowed to go onto the stage, it said that he took 30 minutes, which turned into like a total episode of his just maniacal, fucked up weirdness.
So ranting.
Yeah, basically. Which then he refused to get off of the microphone
Oh my God.
and get off of the stage.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So 2 of the original leaders of Earth Day in Philadelphia wrote, "To much of our dismay, we now find that Einhorn has been taking credit for initiating or organizing Earth Day. He is not telling the truth. Einhorn, given a small role on the stage at Earth Day, grabbed the microphone and refused to give up the podium for 30 minutes, thinking he would get some free television publicity. We just waited until he had completed his act and then got on to the serious business at hand, the keynote speech of the U.S. Senator Edmund Muskie, author of the landmark Clean Air Act of 1970. Einhorn is a fraud."
I like it.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just absorbing because you can only imagine some kind of fucking narcissistic unicorn getting up on the stage and being like, the floor is mine.
Yeah. He's weird.
And trying to take credit for all of it.
Yeah.
He's a narcissist.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
He also ran for mayor of Philly in 1971.
Okay.
Didn't go anywhere for him. He was known to be a loudmouth in the counterculture and environmental movements of his day. And according to the New York Times, the Village Voice called Einhorn indisputably Philadelphia's head hippie and the city's #1 freak.
Love it.
He created a rescue service for people experiencing bad trips on LSD.
All right. Well, that's probably a productive service.
Yeah, right. And he taught a series of free courses around the LSD experience.
All righty.
And he referred to himself as, and this is a quote, "a planetary enzyme, a catalyst to bring people together with important ideas."
Okay. So obviously he was tripping when he came up with that.
Yeah. Clearly, right? He considered himself to be a radical hippie, which he like basically got rid of societal norms at this point in his life.
Okay.
Including like bathing and using, I know he was sitting in the bath. Apparently
like,
it was just
wait.
a tub of water.
Like, wait.
using deodorant. He didn't want to do that anymore either.
Ugh.
As a result of his attitudes, like towards this personal hygiene issue he was finding himself in, facing, whatever I'm trying to say. The people who knew him said that he emitted an unpleasant odor. And one friend described him as a hoagie with onions.
Ew. Gross.
It's not fucking nasty.
Yeah, that's gross.
So, like, in addition to his odor, Ira, he refused to regularly groom his long hair and his beard, which, he looked unkempt at this point.
I'll bet if you're not bathing and combing your hair and you have a big ass beard, it's probably all full of fucking Cheeto dust and shit. I don't know.
Yeah. Fucking weirdo.
Yeah.
And while he was a teacher at UPenn, he reportedly removed his clothing in front of his students.
What the fuck? Nobody wants to see that shit.
And those who knew him said that he often did this when people would show up at his house. He just would be naked and answer the door.
Oh my God. Narcissist.
Yeah. Fucking gross.
Yeah. Look at me. I'm naked. I'm awesome.
And I don't brush my hair or my beard or shower or wear deodorant.
Ugh.
And I smell like
onions.
A hoagie with onions. Ew. So fucking gross.
Yeah. It's disgusting.
So besides being a hippie and an activist and a narcissist, I just added that in.
Got that.
He was a womanizer.
How?
Fuck if I know.
I mean, God, you want some fucking stinky fucker who's all gross?
Right.
I guess some people like it.
So on at least 2 occasions prior to his relationship with Holly, one of the women had to seek medical attention after she tried to end their relationship. And he responded by trying to strangle her to death.
What a fucker.
And another one of his girlfriends went to the hospital after he broke a glass bottle of Coke over her head when she tried to break up with him.
Jeez.
Yeah.
How does that make you want to stay with somebody?
It doesn't.
You're right.
Yeah. How does that convince you to be like, yeah, I should probably be in this relationship?
Right.
What the fuck?
No.
In his journal, he wrote, "Violence always marks the end of a relationship."
Well, for him, it does.
Yeah, because that woman won't want him back.
Yeah, well, and also he's being violent at the end of a relationship.
Yeah.
That's not normal.
That's not normal. It's
No.
gross.
You break up, you delete their number, and you block them.
This wasn't a cell phone time.
I know, but I'm just...
According to the ex that he strangled, he also enjoyed tormenting small animals.
Ugh.
Where she said that he liked to take cats and put them in the shower. He didn't kill the cats. He just liked to listen to them scream in the shower. I don't know. I get a small amount of joy hearing the fact that he didn't kill the cats. He's just like, they hate water, so I'm going to torment them.
Yeah, I'm glad that he didn't kill them, but not cool.
No, not cool in the slightest.
Fucking with animals is not cool.
No, not cool at all, but at least he's not killing them.
Right.
That's the only thing I'll say.
How are you a fucking environmentalist and activist and fucking stellar human being if you torture animals?
Well, he's not a stellar human being,
well,
clearly.
But he thinks he is.
Yeah, he thinks he's the shit. He thinks his shit don't stink.
Everything else about him does.
Yeah. He also indicated that he got a perverse pleasure from the pain and suffering of other living beings. Wow, can't English. And he had written in 1962, this is a journal entry of his, I contemplate with joy the pain of others.
What the fuck?
And he also wrote, beauty and innocence must be violated. They can't be possessed.
What the fuck?
He's a weirdo.
They can be possessed and they shouldn't be violated.
No, he's a freak.
Yeah.
He just is jealous because he's not beautiful or innocent.
Right.
Because maybe he could have been those things if he wasn't such a weirdo.
Right. And chose to bathe.
Yeah, no shit. Ugh.
Yeah.
So Helen Holly, she goes by Holly, her real name was Helen Maddox, was born May 26th of 1947, and she was the oldest of 5 children. She was raised in Tyler, Texas. She was the salutatorian of her class when she graduated from high school.
I like it.
In 1965.
I like it.
She was a cheerleader and a dancer, and many said she possessed ethereal beauty.
Which can't be possessed.
Not according to him.
Right. But so she's way younger than him then.
Like 7-8 years. Yeah. 7 years.
So quite a bit.
She attended the Bryn Mawr College in Philadelphia. I don't know how you say it. Bryn Mawr.
Gotcha.
Bryn Mawr.
Yeah, sure.
where she graduated in 1971 with a degree in English. It said that she was creative, smart, and beautiful. And she is. Her picture, she's like so damn cute. She's like a little flower child, a little hippy dippy girl.
Aw.
I'm like goals. Her sister described her as having the same kind of fragile beauty as Michelle Pfeiffer.
Aw.
Yeah. Sweet.
Yeah.
In October of 1972, Holly and Ira began a relationship. And just days after they met, Holly moved in with him.
Jeez.
Yeah, I don't really know what that was about. But she did.
Yeah. Well, because it's all that peace, love, and happiness and all that.
Yeah, that era, that time.
Yeah. Like,
and who they want to be.
Yeah.
Or maybe probably who she actually was, but who he wanted to be.
Yeah.
His facade.
Yeah.
Ira seemed to always live well. He was the recipient of generous gifts from a lot of wealthy benefactors, a lot of influential corporate structures who believed that the great unwashed master of the flower child, the self-styled planetary enzyme, that he had the secrets that they could exploit into big bucks.
What the fuck?
Yeah. So it's, I guess, a mutually beneficial relationship if he wasn't, had this facade.
Yeah,
that
he's getting paid for it.
Yeah, that all these people are like taking care of him.
Yeah, must be nice.
Her family wasn't right. Fucking A. Her family wasn't a big fan of Ira or their relationship. They found him to be rude and overbearing, and it seemed like he was bullying Holly. And here's a news article quote. In 1975, she brought her beau home for a weekend in Texas. Miss Wakeman remembers Mr. Einhorn being loud and self-absorbed. She also recalls that he got poison ivy on a walk and sat at the dinner table, scratching the baking soda off his body. Privately, Holly's father called Mr. Einhorn the king of the pig people. I knew immediately not to allow him into my world, said Mrs. Wakeman. I stayed away from him. When Holly and Mr. Einhorn traveled to Europe, the year young Meg was studying abroad, she chose not to see her sister rather than put up with him. It crushed me, Mrs. Wakeman said. I just adored my sister. In a stream of letters from Philadelphia to her siblings in the mid-70s, Holly alluded to problems in the relationship. It would be years before they would learn of the stormy fights.
That sucks.
Yeah. So people who knew him said that he always treated his girlfriends in a very sexist way, and that Holly experienced Ira's psychological, emotional, and physical abuse.
Awesome.
One of her friends, Andrea Boyd, wow, can't English tonight, fuck, recalled an instance in which Holly, she turned her head in a way that Andrea could see the side of her neck and noticed a mark. And Andrea asked her if someone was hurting her, and she said that Ira did it.
What a fucker.
Yeah. So we discussed earlier, that Ira definitely met the stereotype of a hippie. Not that every hippie meets the stereotype. The unkempt, the...
Peace, love, and happiness.
Not the peace, love, and happiness.
I'm
the
without
physical.
The peace, love, and happiness.
The physical. The
Okay.
physical aspect of it, sorry. The physical aspect of being a hippie.
Okay.
Not that every hippie is that way, but he obviously met the stereotype of it. And so he always ordered his girlfriends to do all of his bidding. So he demanded that they brushed his hair and tend to his every need.
What the fuck?
Right? I thought he wasn't brushing his hair.
Right.
Oh, I guess he's not. His girlfriends are, because he's making them.
And he's super sexist, which is not a hippie thing.
No. That's why it's all a facade.
Yeah.
He's a fucker. So he also expected all of his girlfriends and Holly to be faithful to him, but he openly cheated on Holly during their relationship. According to a friend who knew the couple, Ira went to a party with Holly, but when he met a new woman that evening, he arranged for another person to give Holly a ride home so that he could have sex with his new friend. All the while this conversation's happening in front of Holly.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
What a piece of crap.
Yeah, what a dick face, am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So 5 years into their relationship, sometime in the fall of 1977, Holly had broken up with Ira. She finally had enough of the bullshit.
Good.
Worked up the courage. She wanted to leave the chaotic life that she had been sharing with him. Friends of the couple remember noisy quarrels, attempts on Ira's part to reconcile the relationship, and then more heated arguments. But this time Holly was like, no, I'm out of here. She stood firm in her way. She looked at him and was like, you stink. And I'm leaving you and I'm moving to New York.
Yeah.
So she did that. She moved to New York. And there were some reports, which I couldn't find a lot of backing up on that she was seeing someone new.
Okay.
But I mean, I guess, yeah, she moved on pretty quickly and was living in New York with this new guy.
Oh, well, if she moved in with Ira in days,
Yeah, I guess
you know.
she could have easily done it.
Yeah.
Yeah. In September of 1977, Ira, who was 37 at the time, lured Holly back to his Philadelphia apartment by threatening to throw all of her belongings into the street.
What a fucker.
Yeah. So he said if she didn't come retrieve them, they're out of here. Sucks to be you.
Yeah.
So
That sucks.
she went back to the apartment and the two were seen at a movie the following night. And then Holly just vanished into thin air. Poof.
Ugh.
And
That sucks.
Einhorn's closest friends knew that he was furious that, this beautiful blonde flower child who he wanted in his life, his Holly, just left him. But obviously he's a piece of shit. So why are we surprised?
Right.
Friends of Holly's knew that, his plans for her to come to the apartment were, just bogus. And they had warned her to stay away, not give in to, any of his promises that,
Right,
I'm going to throw your stuff out if you don't come get it.
Right, cool. Throw it out and then I'll get it from outside.
Right.
That's what I'm thinking.
Get rid of it.
Yeah.
Please. I beg you, get rid of it. I don't want any of it.
Yeah. Well, or throw it outside and I'll pick it up from outside because I'm not coming in that apartment.
Yeah. Not coming in where you hurt my neck and various other places, I'm assuming.
Right. Emotionally, physically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Ira, obviously, he denied any involvement in her disappearance.
Well, duh.
When he was questioned by the police, to which he claimed, when he was questioned, he claimed that she was 30 at the time, that she went out to the neighborhood co-op to go buy some tofu and some sprouts, and then she just didn't come back. That's what he said about it.
Alrighty.
He told investigators that he was sorry, but he had absolutely no idea where she had gone after she left him. He was just simply too busy with work to worry about her. And right now he was involved in really, really important humanitarian projects for the city of Philadelphia. That Holly was just the farthest thing from his mind.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, douchebag.
Yeah, no kidding.
So during this time, he was a resident fellow at the Harvard Institute of Politics in the Kennedy School of Government during the fall of the 1978 semester.
Mm-hmm.
And like always, he was busy cultivating, new people in his life, local politicians, corporate executives, socialites.
Finding people to take advantage of.
Yeah, going to their parties. And a lot of businesses actually ended up hiring him as their counterculture consultant.
Alrighty
Isn't that
then.
weird?
Yeah, that's
Odd.
Yeah. And I have a total visual of it too, where people are like, oh my God, he's so intriguing. He's so different. He's so against the norm.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Look at Robert. He's in a suit. Look at Ira. He's naked. With Cheeto dust in his beard.
That's funny. I like your envisioning of this. I'm trying not to because I've seen pictures of him.
Okay.
Try and burn that image after. Once the Instagram is live, I'm burning it out of my head. Maybe I'll just burn my eyeballs. I don't know.
No, that's probably not a good idea.
I'm just kidding. So the Maddox family, they're worried sick. They don't know what the fuck's going on. So they hired a private investigator who was a former FBI agent to look into what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And over the next few months, Ira's downstairs neighbor complained of terrible smells and dark liquid leaking into his apartment.
Ugh, gross.
Yep.
And sad. Tragic.
Horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's what I was thinking too. I was like, no way could she be in a trunk and it not
have anything?
Yeah. And trunks aren't watertight.
No. They don't hold water.
No.
They don't hold liquid in place.
Yeah.
So this private detective who's suspicious of Ira, obviously everybody always looks at the ex-boyfriend.
Right. And in this case,
the ex-partner.
Yeah.
Yeah. He spoke to the student, the private detective did, who lived in the apartment downstairs, the one below Ira's that's complaining about this stuff, complaining about the smells. And he recalled that one night in the fall of 1977, he heard some blood-curdling screams accompanied by some loud bangs.
Ugh.
Yeah. So he
It's
said
like Jeffrey Dahmerish in a way.
Right.
Yeah.
As the time passed, the student also said that he saw reddish brown, foul-smelling liquid dripping down from the ceiling directly below Ira's apartment.
Gross.
And when the landlord called the plumbers to fix the leak, Ira refused to let them in to investigate the place that the dripping was coming from, which they could see where it was coming from, and there was a padlock on his closet.
What a fucker.
Right? He's so fucking, ugh.
Yeah, and that's when you call the police, I think?
Right?
Because, I guess probably they don't know that his girlfriend's missing or his ex-girlfriend.
Right.
They don't know that Holly's missing.
Yeah, they don't. The student, the neighbors.
Yeah.
So the private investigator passed this information then on to the police, like, hey, let's do something about this.
Mm-hmm.
And Detective Chitwood, finally, on March 28th of 1979, fucking 18 months later.
Yeah. That's a while.
He was able to obtain an extensive search warrant for Ira's second floor apartment. Well, his goal was obviously to find physical evidence of the fact that Ira killed Holly that showed, this is what's going on. So there was a rumor that when Ira answered the door to the police and the investigators, that he was completely naked.
Oh, well, that doesn't surprise me.
I just thought it was funny.
Ugh.
I also saw I saw two things, completely naked, or he had a robe on, but it was like completely open. So still completely naked.
Either way.
Just with shit on his shoulders.
Either way.
It said that he offered absolutely no resistance when the officers began to search for the source of the odor and the brown stain. And he found that evidence in the balcony closet, which was Holly's belongings, her clothing, her ID cards, as well as a long overdue library book on how to mummify a corpse.
Oh my God.
I'm not even fucking kidding here.
Oh my God.
See why I said this shit sounds like it should come out of movies? Oh, just wait for it, baby. Just wait for the fucking craziness of this one.
Okay.
You've never heard of this case, right?
Well, I had heard of the unicorn and Holly Maddox, but I just knew he killed his girlfriend.
Okay, so you don't know the...
No.
Okay,
and,
good.
Yeah, I think if her corpse is liquefying in a trunk, you've surpassed the make it into a mummy stage.
Well, homicide detectives, they pried open that padlock, and obviously they were met with an awful, even worse smell, just a putrid scent that was not, in the air before like it is now.
Ugh.
So Chitwood, he later described the scene and said, "You could smell the body. I didn't know the body was still in the trunk. I figured it was at one point in time. I came across a layer of foam. Then I gingerly, but slowly but surely, started removing the foam. And there was a hand, a mummified hand." So at this point, he was like, let me call the ME. Right, let's get the medical examiners over here and on this. And it said that they used a crowbar to get into the black steamer trunk that her body was placed in. Mm-hmm. And packed in alongside of her was styrofoam, which I saw somewhere that it was like packing peanuts. It's kind of styrofoam or just styrofoam. I'm not really sure.
Okay.
Air fresheners and newspapers. Yeah.
Okay.
And
sorry, I had a wincing face.
Yeah, you did. So this is another quote from the Delaware Valley Journal. And it says, at the very bottom of the closet was a locked steamer truck. Chitwood broke into the trunk with a crowbar. There was a hand, a mummified hand. And Chitwood said to Ira, who was watching the whole affair happen, right? It looks like we found Holly. And Ira responded, you found what you found.
What a fucker.
Yeah, this guy's a total douche.
Yeah.
So later it was determined that her cause of death was bludgeoning. And that she had 6 fractures in her skull.
Aw, that's really sad.
Yeah.
All of it's really sad.
It's all very sad.
Yeah, it sucks.
After 18 months, this is, I think, like one of the worst parts of it. Her decomposed corpse only weighed 37 pounds.
So it's like skeletal.
Yeah. Like mummified skeletal. Yeah. It was later revealed that after her disappearance, he had asked 2 teenage girls that had been he had been seeing, like dating, I guess, right?
What the fuck? And he's 37.
Yeah. Yeah. Gross.
Yeah.
To help him dump a trunk into the Schuylkill. I don't know how you say this. The river nearby.
Okay.
But the girls refused.
That was good on them.
Yeah, right. Which investigators...
Bad on them for dating him, but good on them for not helping participate in getting rid of a body.
Right. Yeah. Just horrible, 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 horrible person, horrible thing, horrible circumstances.
Yeah, it's terrible.
I saw that they think that her body might have not been in there the entire time, but they're not sure if like she was placed in there after because he was afraid or if she was in there the entire time. They don't really know.
And of course,
he won't share. He's not going to divulge that information.
He's not going to tell you shit.
Right. So he was obviously arrested for her murder.
Good.
And he maintained his innocence, of course.
Well, of course.
You know, the narcissist he is. So Arlen Specter, who had been a district attorney who became a U.S. senator, he was working as a defense lawyer at the time and he represented Ira, which I know he got a lot of backlash for this, but a lot of people also said he was just doing his job.
Well, yeah, defense attorneys have the worst job, I think, especially if you know your client's guilty. Because how are you going to have a fucking body in a trunk in your closet that's all padlocked and then be like, oh, yeah, no, I didn't do it. Like,
right.
Who did it?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he got a lot of criticism. However, people, understood the man was just doing his job.
Yep. Doing his job.
So although he was charged with first degree murder, Ira was, Judge Armand Della Porta set bail at only 10% of what he was supposed to have, which was $40,000.
So he set it at $4,000?
$4,000.
What the fuck?
So many rich and influential people wrote letters to the judge on his behalf. Several accounts, described him as charming and charismatic. So that's why they think that the bail went down. But, his signature charm, he convinced Barbara Bronfman, I think is how you say her last name, Barbara. She was a wealthy Montreal socialite who had met Ira through the shared interest in the paranormal.
Okay.
To pay his bail of $4,000 cash.
Fuck.
A high priest of peace, love, harmony, could always be trusted, obviously, to remain in Philadelphia until his trial.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So
without a doubt, he's not going anywhere.
Right. So Chitwood had this to say about Ira. He certainly had something. He got out with the accolades from different people in the business community who talked about what a wonderful person he was. The letters people wrote. It was not an array of misfits. It was affluent people.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah, super sucks.
Yeah.
So Ira had plenty to say to his supporters to, try and clear things up between him and his friends, if you will. And according to one of his stories, he didn't know that Holly's body was decomposing in there in his bedroom closet. He hadn't seen her after she had told him that their relationship was over and just left him.
That's weird.
He also announced that Holly had been murdered by the CIA as a government setup because Ira knew too much about their paranormal research. I'm sorry, I couldn't help but start to giggle in that moment.
No, I'm like, what the fuck? Because again, you're such a narcissist that you think that people are gonna believe that the CIA gives a fuck about you and your paranormal investigation, that they're going to fucking kill Holly to frame you.
Right.
Okay. That's so fucking reasonable.
Super. Terribly reasonable.
Yeah, what the fuck?
So he also said that he had returned to the apartment one day and he had just found her murdered.
So then he just put her in the fucking trunk?
He was thinking that she'd either been killed by the FBI or the CIA or the KGB. And she was left there to, just so they could frame him, And he was fearing that no one would believe him and accepting the sad fact that it would be too late to help Holly. He hid her body and hoped that it would never be found.
Well, what the fuck? Because he's literally just said before that he didn't know that she was in the closet.
Right. Well, of course, he's got a lot of stories.
Right. And now he's like, oh, no, wait, just kidding. I forgot. The CIA, FBI, or KGB killed her. And then, I had to hide her body because I knew I would be in trouble for it.
Right.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, this guy's a lot, huh?
Yeah.
He's a lot. And poor Holly, fuck.
Yeah.
Just trying to break up with the guy and get her shit back.
Yeah.
Ira reminded his supporters that the feds considered him an agent provocateur and that they were still furious at him for his participation in the anti-war movement and that his communications with the peaceniks behind the Iron Curtain.
Okay.
And that he claimed that they also wanted him out of the way because he was pioneering work on the internet and his desire to make it international, which would have made it beyond the control of the federal government.
Alrighty then.
So
Sure.
he's just doing all the things.
Right. Well, and so on one hand, I'm sure because he was, quote unquote, the Abby Hoffman of Philadelphia, he is probably on the FBI's radar.
Right.
But they're not going to go kill his girlfriend and frame him. Yeah.
No, just so they can like get him.
Yeah, no. They're just going to get him.
Right. If they had a reason to get him, they would.
Right.
Yeah, I definitely also think it's safe to say that he was probably on their radar.
Yeah.
Like long before this.
Yeah.
Long before any of this.
But not as a murderer, just as a
Crazy.
potentially frightening.
He was coined the biggest freak in the town. So yeah, potentially that.
Yeah.
So in January of 1981, this was just days before the trial.
Mm-hmm.
You'll never guess what he did.
He booked.
He booked it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He took off.
Yeah. He
pieced out.
He had his bail from his friend.
Mm-hmm.
I can't believe he waited till like just days before his trial. Isn't that weird?
That is weird.
That he's just like, do. Oh shit. Let me check. I just checked my watch. I have trial in 3 hours. I better get on a plane. So he went to Ireland.
Oh my gosh. Because there's no extradition laws, right?
We'll get to that.
Okay.
We'll get to some of the shit that happened. So Mike Chitwood, again, this was that guy, the detective, the lead detective. He later told the police chief in Portland, Maine, that as soon as the judge set bail, he just knew Ira was going to skip.
Well, yeah,
and
you
that
think.
he told the other detectives, this guy will never come to trial. He'll just take off.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, duh.
But like you said, it's weird that he like hung out the whole time, like spinning all these lies about the FBI and the KGB. And then like right before the trial, he's like, oh, fuck, I better go.
Right? He's like, oh shit, I just checked my calendar. I got trial tomorrow.
Better
Better leave. So under the aliases Ben Moore and Eugene Mallon, Ira, he hid out in Ireland, the UK, all about the UK, obviously Ireland is in the UK.
Yes.
In Sweden. Meanwhile, investigators interrogated his friends in the US about his whereabouts. And we'll get like talking about his aliases and like how we learned of them later.
Okay.
His story was featured on America's Most Wanted.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
So were people funding him?
We'll talk about this.
Okay.
So there was a sighting of him in 1986, but, you know, for as far as we know, he was in Europe somewhere at this time.
So where was the sighting of him? Was it in the U.S.?
It didn't say that, but it said that there were like sightings of him in America. It didn't say specifically where the one in 86 was.
Okay.
But it said there was one of him in like Thailand.
So at this point, he's been on the run for 5 years.
Yeah, he's been on the run for 5 years. People probably are seeing him if they're traveling, you know?
Yeah.
To Europe. But it didn't say about him going back to the States. And it also didn't say about him going anywhere but in Europe.
Right.
And the UK. I mean, granted, at that point, I think the UK was part of the EU.
Yeah.
That was a recent turn of events that they're not. In 1993, Philadelphia's DA, they decided to try Einhorn for murder in absentia. Absentia, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I have a hard time saying that word. So the defendant was represented by an empty chair next to his lawyer. Isn't that weird?
That's so weird. They could have at least put like a pumpkin in it or something.
Yeah, not just like the air in the chair.
A Mr. Potato Head.
Yeah, there we go. With like spaghetti hanging from it.
Yeah.
That smells like rotten spaghetti, couple day old spaghetti.
Gross.
That's been left out on the counter. The unusual proceedings, obviously, it's weird.
Yeah.
They reflected the prosecutor's concern about the number of witnesses that might die before Ira could be apprehended and brought back, you know, for trial in person.
What the fuck?
They also believed that an official trial could help bring closure to the Maddox family. Unfortunately, however, the guilty verdict actually, it like didn't help at all.
Well, yeah, because he's not there to fucking be found guilty.
Well, we'll talk about this. But
You keep saying that about everything I say. We'll talk about it later. We'll talk about it later.
well, because I have a lot here still.
Okay.
So he was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison
But he's not there.
And how do you say it?
In absentia.
Absentia, which is Latin for in absence or in one's absence, which they sometimes do trials this way without the presence of the accused, which Ira's attorney argued that Holly Maddox's body had been planted in his client's apartment, and it only took the jury 2 hours to find him guilty and the judge to hand down the life sentence for him.
Right. So
even though he wasn't there,
right.
They thought it would just be good for the family to have some kind of closure.
Well, and if they catch him, then he's going.
Right.
Yeah, there's no $4,000 bail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's gone.
However, fucking ugh.
So the years just dragged on and, it was hard for the Maddox family. And they thought that Ira would never be found and justice would never be served. But some investigators never gave up, including the Philadelphia's district attorney's fugitive and extradition chief, Richard D. Benedito.
Okay.
So he hunted Ira for 16 years.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So Richard, he tracked Ira from Ireland to England to Sweden and then finally to France. There were 3 occasions, twice in Dublin, one in Stockholm, where Richard missed him only by a matter of hours.
Fuck.
So the persistence of him, he commented to the press that it always disgusted him that, the wealthy benefactors, the people still under Ira's spell from his days as, a hippie guru, continued to support him.
That's so fucked up.
Yeah. So Richard stated that Richard stated that it was consistently apparent to him that Ira was living well in his exile.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. Fucked up. So remember the chick who played his bail, Barbara?
Mm-hmm.
So she had financially supported him throughout all of this time.
Fuck.
Throughout his whole time in Europe.
So can they get her for something?
So
aiding and abetting?
Right. In 1988, she read Stephen Levy's book about Ira that's called The Unicorn Secret. And she was like, fuck, what am I doing at this point?
So 1988.
Yeah.
So 7 years after she's been
7
supporting
years
him.
later, yeah, after she's already been supporting him.
Right.
So then she gave the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office and Richard the name of a wealthy Swedish woman whose name was Annika Floden.
Okay.
Or Floden. I think it's Floden. So when investigators had tracked Annika down, she claimed to be Ira's landlady and she didn't know anything else about him. But they had sensed that Ira had slipped away again. Of course, he's always one step ahead of all these people, right?
Motherfucker.
And soon Annika had slipped away too, abandoning her home, and they couldn't get in touch with her for further interrogation.
So she's on the run with him.
She's on the run with him.
Or he killed her. But I'm going to go with she's on the run.
Smart bank. Smart bet.
Yeah, because he
can't.
needs somebody to take care of him financially.
Right. Yeah, because he can't do it for himself.
Right. He shouldn't kill his money lady.
Yeah, he probably shouldn't do that.
No.
So Ira had developed friendships with a number of influential people in his time in Europe. Sorry, I was going to say in England, but this one would be in England. A British musician, Peter Gabriel.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And Hank Harrison.
Okay.
Do you know who that is?
I do not, but I do know who Peter Gabriel is.
Hank Harrison is a Grateful Dead biographer and Courtney Love's dad.
Oh, well, who knew?
Right? Isn't that weird?
That is weird.
While neither man had admitted to knowing that Ira was wanted by the police.
Okay.
Yeah, so whether they knew it or not, I don't know.
Well, and they didn't know him as Ira Einhorn. They knew him by an alias.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
and
then...
I don't know, not to be in anyone's defense, but I don't know if Peter Gabriel's watching America's Most Wanted.
Yeah, I doubt it.
Right?
He's probably too busy doing other things.
Probably. Being Peter Gabriel.
Yeah. World famous musician.
Mm-hmm.
Then in 1997, a Stockholm police contact managed to obtain Annika's social security number.
Good.
and he ran her name through the motor vehicle records in Sweden and learned that she had applied for a French driver's license in 1994. Notably, she had applied under the name Annika Floden Malone. Remember that name?
Yes.
So Di Benedetto, Richard, he said that he knew that Ira had assumed the name Eugene Malone, which he had borrowed from a Dublin bookseller. And apparently, Annika Floden was now Mrs. Eugene Malone or Mrs. Ira Einhorn.
So she married him? Like, she actually married him?
She married this fucking son of a bitch.
Wow.
Yeah.
Gross.
Right? I don't know how you do that.
Yeah, I don't either.
In 1996, the Philadelphia Daily News put up a billboard bearing Ira's likeness. How people, he was our hippie, he's our person in Philadelphia. Which then, the newspaper wasn't anticipating this. Many Philadelphians threw Rotten Tomatoes at him.
Good.
Yeah. So, he'd already been tried and convicted in absentia at this time for Holly's murder. So once again, Richard's persistence really paid off in the case.
Sounds like it.
On May 15th, 1997, he found Ira's address, in which authorities had traced the address Floden had listed. Annika had listed Floden, same person. And they arrived at the converted windmill in Champagne-Moton in France. I don't know. Somewhere in France. Quiet village.
And they lived in a converted windmill?
Yeah.
That sounds fucking cool.
I know, right? Sounds like they're having a cool life.
I know. I'm like, that fucker.
Yeah, right. So then in June of 1997, they found Ira. And they soon learned that he and Floden had married and that he'd been living in France under the alias, right? This is all like coming together for them. So in the 17 years that he, was on the run, he was finally arrested. But the complex extradition laws, see, I told you we'd get to it, between France and the United States, it was several years again before he would get extradited back to the States.
But he was in prison in France.
No.
He's just fucking living in the windmill?
He's just fucking living in the windmill.
Fucker. Because he thinks he's above the law and he thinks he's not going to get extradited, so he's not running anymore.
Yeah, he's not running anymore. So in the meantime, he relied on multiple legal avenues to slow down his extradition.
Of course he did.
He was under surveillance, but as he should have been, right? But he wasn't detained at this point.
That's so fucked up.
So, although he was not sentenced to death in the United States, his defense attorneys argued that he would likely face the death penalty if he returned to the United States.
France's anti-death penalty, even though they invented the fucking guillotine.
Right.
But whatever. I guess they changed their minds.
So they don't want to extradite defendants to jurisdictions where they could possibly face the death penalty.
But he'd already been tried and convicted and got a life sentence. But, I mean, I guess his lawyer's just manipulating the law, the legal system.
So Pennsylvania authorities pointed out that when the murder occurred, the state actually didn't have the death penalty. So Ira couldn't be executed because of the state and federal constitutions. They forbid the ex post facto law.
Okay.
So I guess good for him, right? Whatever. His next strategy involved the French law and the European Court of Human Rights, which required a new trial when the defendant was tried in absentia and unable to present in his defense. On this basis, the Court of Appeals of Bordeaux rejected the extradition request.
Fuck.
So following the court's decision, 35 members of Congress sent a letter to French President Jacques Chirac. I think Jacques Chirac. Sure, I don't know. I flunked out of French. To ask for Ira's extradition, right? However, under French doctrine of the separation of powers, which was invoked in this case, the president cannot give orders to the courts and does not intervene in extradition affairs.
Fuck.
So in 1998, to secure Ira's extradition, the Pennsylvania legislature
legislature,
can't say it, passed a bill which they named Einhorn Law.
Good. I was going to say just in his honor. Fucker.
Right. Allowing defendants convicted in absentia to request another trial. And according to the Philadelphia District Attorney, Lynn Abraham, the Pennsylvania legislature turned on a dime to pass a law granting the court's power to offer new trials in special causes such as Einhorn's. Lynn Abraham, she was actually the judge in the case at the time when they got the search warrant for the apartment. She's the one who signed it.
Okay.
So she's just like double ending all of this.
Right.
Which is good.
It is good. And also, not to be a proponent for Ira Einhorn, but if you're tried in absentia, then that does go against our justice system, where you are entitled to have a trial where you get to defend yourself.
Yeah.
And if you're not there, you can't do that. So, it's only fair, and
right.
Also France will send you back if they think you're going to get a new trial, hopefully.
Yeah. So Maddox's father, Holly Maddox, he suffered with rheumatoid arthritis on top of the death of his daughter. So he ended up committing suicide and completing suicide in 1988.
Aw, that's really sad.
And in 1990, her mom passed away from emphysema, which had, I guess, worsened due to her grief. So with Holly's parents gone, her 3 sisters and her brother campaigned to get Ira extradited from France to stand trial for the murder in the United States.
Good.
Yeah. So in another delay tactic from Ira,
of course,
his attorney criticized the bill as unconstitutional and tried to get the French courts to once again deny the extradition on the grounds that the law would be inapplicable.
That's so stupid because it's anything but unconstitutional. It's absolutely 100% constitutional.
Right? This is trying to give you access to another trial.
Yeah. Fucker.
However, the French court ruled itself unable to evaluate the constitutionality of foreign laws.
Good.
So this was another point of friction with the United States, that the court freed Ira under police supervision, as French laws put restrictions on remand, imprisonment of suspects awaiting trial. So it just doesn't happen.
Right.
Which is so fucking weird.
It is weird.
So the matter went before the Prime Minister, Lionel Jospin. I don't know how you say it. Lionel. The Prime Minister. Extraditions, after having been approved by the courts, must be ordered by the executive. So the French Green Party stated that Ira should not be extradited until it was certain that the Einhorn law could not be reversed.
Any law can be reversed, but whatever.
Right. We've seen that way too many in the last few years. Way too many times. Way too much. So the Prime Minister rejected the claims and issued an extradition decree.
What the fuck?
Right. So Ira then litigated against the decree before the Conseil d'État, the court.
The French court.
Which ruled against him. Again, the council declined to review the constitutionality of foreign law.
Okay.
Again, we're just going in circles here.
Yeah.
So then the Philadelphia Daily News also provided its readers with forms that they could complete with messages for Ira if he was ever returned to the area after being extradited back to the U.S. from France. And hundreds of people wrote special notes to the former fugitive, including profane messages,
Good. I was they better not be fucking praising him.
No, people were like, I hope you get ass fucked in prison.
Good.
That's what people were saying to him.
That is a good sentiment.
Right. Don't drop the soap. According to the editor, the goal was to make him as miserable as possible.
Good.
Yeah. So in July of 2001, the Council of State, France's highest administrative body, announced an order for Ira Einhorn to be extradited to the United States. Woohoo!
Fucking finally, 2001.
Right. Took him fucking long enough.
Yeah, that's wow.
So France.
They found him in 97, right?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Well, he was going in circles trying to do anything he could to stay there.
And he probably was enjoying every fucking minute of it.
Oh, absolutely. He's such a piece of shit.
Yeah, and it was giving him something to do.
So France had agreed to return him on the grounds that he would be granted the chance at another trial, this time with himself present.
Oh,
Right. So
Still gonna be guilty, motherfucker.
right, still gonna be guilty as fuck. You did it. You can't lie to us no more.
Right? Especially you went on the run for that long. If you're fucking innocent, you don't run.
Yeah, no, that's like clear guilty nature.
Yeah.
After hearing the news, Ira, who was at home, decided to slit his throat, which, you know,
My jaw dropped.
delayed his extradition even further.
But he lived because...
He was just trying to delay people, and, you know, it wasn't really an attempt to take his own life because he's too vain for that shit, too narcissistic.
That's why I'm like, no fucking way.
So... After he slit his own throat, he promptly invited a French television crew to his home for an interview, which he gave with, like, blood dripping down his front side of his body.
Are you fucking kidding me?
And only after the interview, he walked himself to an ambulance, which then he was taken to the hospital.
I feel like you're fine.
Yeah.
If you can have an interview with the press and then walk yourself to an ambulance, you can be fucking extradited. You're fine. Put a fucking Band-Aid on it. You're good.
Right.
Here's some Tylenol.
You're fine.
Yeah.
So he fled again, but he didn't get away with it. This time to Cuba. And that's because their asylum laws are favorable for U.S. criminals who want to avoid extradition.
Yeah, because Cuba hates the United States. The Cuban government hates the United States government.
Yeah. But when news of his departure from the Department of Justice and the French government, they were like, nah, motherfucker. They got him in a plane and he was back on U.S. ground.
From Cuba?
No, he was trying to go to Cuba.
Oh, okay.
And then they were like, nah, motherfucker.
So France was like, yeah, we're done with you. We've wasted enough time and money on you.
Yeah, basically. They're like, yo, you gotta go back.
Right.
Where he was finally prosecuted for Holly's murder after 23 years abroad on July 20th, 2001. He was finally back on American soil, and this was 25 years after he killed his ex-girlfriend.
Jesus.
So he took the stand in his own defense, again, you know, claiming that the murder had been a government setup, that she was murdered by CIA agents who attempted to frame him due to his investigations into the Cold War and psychotronics.
Oh my God. My eyes are rolling. They should sound like marbles.
They do to me over here. Don't worry. He also told jurors, try not to pee your pants laughing, that he had a Virgo moon.
Yeah, okay. Oh my God. Like, I just want someone to shoot this guy.
Well, don't say that.
Why?
Because that's bad.
Okay. I'm like, is it really though?
So with the physical evidence from Einhorn's house and his documented history of domestic violence, the trial went by real fucking fast.
Good.
The jury took all of 2 hours, once again, to find him guilty.
Okay.
And on October 17, 2002, he was once again convicted of the murder of Holly Maddox. And the following day, he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole on the charge of first-degree murder.
Good.
Yeah.
Fucking finally.
So he started serving his sentence at the Pennsylvania State Correctional Institution at Hootsdale. And in November 2006, his sentence was unanimously affirmed by the Superior Court of Pennsylvania.
Good. Well, because automatically when you get sentenced to life or death, you automatically get an appeal process.
Yeah. So that's good that, you know, immediately he was shut the fuck down.
Yeah. They're like, no.
So District Attorney Lynn Abraham, remember, she's the district attorney at this time. She signed the...
She was the judge that signed the search warrant in the very first place. Yeah.
She declared, it's a sweet day for the Maddox family and for Holly's memory. And the presiding judge called Ira an intellectual dilettante. Dilettante, yeah. Who preyed on the uninitiated, uninformed, unsuspecting, and inexperienced. And
he's a manipulative piece of shit, in other words.
Yeah, right. And Chitwood, again, the investigator, he had all this to say. I'm not saying anything good about him. To me, he was a con man, but people believed everything he said was the gospel truth. But he was a con man and a murderer. All those people who protected him and wanted him to be the good guy, he wasn't that guy. What I'm saying is that he was a creep and a bullshitter.
Yeah.
And he also was saying that like if he had reported Holly's death to authorities and pled guilty in 1979, that he probably would have only been sentenced to 5 to 6 years for a crime of passion. And then he also said that he's sorry that her parents never saw justice because they had passed away before that, unfortunately.
Yeah, way before that.
Yeah.
Went on for decades.
Right. He was on the run forever.
Yeah.
Philadelphia's district attorney again, Lynn Abraham. I wanted to save this for last until we continue to move a little bit further along. You're going to love this. She summarized his conviction fucking amazingly. I had to get in all caps for that fucking amazingly. She said, metaphorically speaking, Ira Einhorn and his Virgo moon are toast.
Nice.
Isn't that awesome?
I love it.
Yeah.
Short, sweet, to the point.
Right.
Yeah.
He and his Virgo moon are fucked.
Yeah.
FBI agent Robert Iringer, he went undercover as a book publisher and he befriended Einhorn and baited that he was like financially desperate with promises of a lucrative publishing contract. And he spent 2 years listening to his intense, that's his quotes, intense bluster of carefully articulated but highly flatulent psychobabble.
Nice.
During this time, Einhorn, he had lost a $907 million wrongful death suit filed by Holly's siblings.
That's good, although they'll never get a dime, but...
No, they'll never get a dime, which he arrogantly believed would elevate his case and help sell his literary masterpiece, which obviously nothing came from it.
Yeah.
Despite the evidence in all of this case, Annika Einhorn, she defended Ira through and through.
Of course she did.
She criticized his decision to flee the country after his first arrest, although she claimed she never experienced any of his violent behavior, and she didn't think that he murdered Holly, which is why she knowingly supported the fugitive.
Fuck.
Which also, how you asked me earlier if any of the people that aided and abetted in his case saw any kind of justice, none of them did.
That's kind of fucked up.
Yeah, right. Very fucked up.
Yeah.
So he died April 3rd, 2020 at the Pennsylvania Institute at Laurel Highlands from natural causes, the Correctional Institute. And I just want to spend the end of this remembering Holly.
Please.
So according to a 1997 article in the Ottawa Citizen, Holly's siblings remember her as the funky bohemian who hand-painted birthday cards and fed them healthy food.
I love it.
The doe-eyed teenager who glided through her ballet class. The big sister who baked them sugar cookies. Her sister, Elizabeth Maddox Hall, said that Holly was such an earth goddess, the coolest person on the block. And she embodied the kindness and love of a flower child. She wanted to be a part of the positive change for the world in an era where so many fought for a better future. And then they said that she was the real magic. Einhorn wasn't the unicorn. Holly was.
Yeah, no shit. I don't like that, calling him the unicorn.
That's why I didn't call him the unicorn at all.
Yeah. All right, well.
It's what I'll title it because that's what he's most known as, but I'm not going to call him it. I'm not going to refer that.
And I feel like I remember when he got extradited back. I feel like I remember seeing like news coverage of that.
You probably did.
Yeah.
It was probably a pretty big deal, I would have to guess.
Yeah. I feel like I remember seeing it.
I just thought it was fucking crazy.
It is fucking crazy.
Yeah. I hope I did my due diligence.
I think you did. It's too much.
That's why I said it's like shit that movies are made out of.
Yeah.
That he's like, I ain't going back. And like keeps doing all this shit to delay and appeal and delay and appeal.
And he's living a good life. Like he's not living some pauper shitty life. That's what gets me the most.
Well, they said that his wife came from money.
Yeah.
Like some serious money.
Yeah. That's what you said.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's not cool.
Oh, I have one more thing that I just thought of that I didn't write this in my notes, but I saw it.
Okay.
That his attorney, that he was arguing that the smell and how like people had reported it, that it was also the landlord had reported that Ira had also reported the smell and that there were a bunch of dead squirrels all the time in the apartment.
Oh, okay.
Not his, but like the complex. And his complex still stands to this day with only slight renovations. Like his apartment's still there.
It's terrible.
Isn't it horrible?
Yeah, it's terrible.
All right. It still resembles what it used to.
Yeah. Well,
what are your final thoughts?
Holly, rest in peace.
Yeah. Sounded like a beautiful soul.
Yeah. And
Oh my God, and she's so damn cute.
Sucks that she got hooked up with this fucker.
Yeah, no shit. Don't they all?
Yeah.
Sucks for all of them. For anyone who is
Gets
with a
hooked
narcissist.
up with a fucker. With a
fucked narcissist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Ain't that the damn truth?
So good job. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Well, you can follow us on the gram at That's Disturbing Podcast. I don't know why I just sang it. Send us a Gmail. That's disturbingpodcast@gmail.com.
Alrighty.
And you can visit our website, www.that'sdisturbingpodcast.com, and fill out a case request form there if you feel so inclined to do so.
Spill out one.
Spill it out. Spill the beans. Give us a case request if you feel so inclined to do so.
Yeah.
At the end of this episode, please. I would love for someone to send a case request form. Nobody ever does. It's fine.
It's whatever. We appreciate all the support.
Bitching about it.
But we do appreciate all the support.
And all the love on the gram.
Yep. Thank you guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.